This is Conversations with Merida Capital, and I am extremely pleased to be joined by a public company CEO, Kim Rivers of Trulieve. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We don't know each other. We've never met before today when I came out of the elevator.
Right.
And because I don't have a name tag on, you're probably like, who is this guy that's asking me these random questions?
It's all fine.
So this is a great chance for us to connect with CEOs, get a little bit deeper into their story,
Sure.
what the philosophies are behind their company, something that you won't see in the sound bites, or something that they read. You're like a fantasy football guy, like a professional football player. People walk up and say, you let my fantasy team down. So people are probably always talking to you about your stock, and you say, I built a company here, guys. I'm not just a stock. So this is a chance for people who may not know you, may not know that you're the CEO. They just know a stock. They know a ticker.
Sure.
And we want to really dig in, especially because I think one of the things that's unique about Trulieve is it comes out of origins that you don't hear a lot nowadays as this has evolved. So I was an early licensee. I know what that grind could be like, especially in Florida, how challenging it could be. And so a lot of people don't always have an appreciation that where you are today is a reflection of where you were.
Sure.
And for you, the medical side, and you came out of real estate development, and just correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Real estate development, some government relations, not a traditional healthcare background per se.
Nope.
But obviously very passionate about the medicine. I've watched enough about you to know that.
Yep.
So talk for a second, if you can, about the roots of Trulieve. What made you want to go through a licensing process like this, other than obviously there's an economic impetus, clearly. And the fact that you focused on Florida first, there weren't a lot of single state entities by the time. It's evolving to multi-state, and even you yourself are pursuing that path.
Sure.
So talk a little bit about your roots, what was important to you from a medical side, and what made you want to go through what we know is an obstacle course with knives. And if anyone can hear, we're at the Benzinga Capital Conference. There could be some noise, but it's all fun. People are connecting and the cannabis industry is moving forward. So Kim, with that being said, love that you're laughing, love that you're having fun. So tell us about Trulieve.
Sure, absolutely. So Trulieve started as one of the first 5 operators in Florida, and I call it,
Hackney Farms.
Yes, Hackney Farms, that's
Okay.
right. And so I call it, death by 1,000 paper cuts. I have a picture of my desk with, I don't even know how many hundreds of Post-it notes all over it.
As a former lawyer, I can appreciate that.
We were going
Yes.
through, when we were going through the application process. And so really in Florida, it's a little bit different from other states in that there was a requirement for businesses to be licensed nursery operators.
400,000 plants.
Yeah, 400,000 plants for a minimum of 30 years. And so really the policy reason...
Which, by the way, has nothing to do with creating medicine.
Correct.
But
yes.
you went through, which makes the obstacle course even crazier for you.
Right, and so there were a lot of interesting policy reasons for that. The legislature really wanted to keep Florida businesses and give back to the agriculture industry, which we've had challenges in Florida around.
And as a government person, you kind of understand the sausage making process.
Yeah, I try to make as much sense of it as we can, and that's one of the philosophies which we can get into later in terms of maintaining and building a growth company, and also maintaining that flexibility and the ability to be nimble and reactive in this space is really important. I think that's one of our keys to our success. But really, so the team was assembled back in 2013, and went after the license, and really initially none of us, I don't think, had a great appreciation for the adventure that we were embarking on. And it really wasn't until...
Did you think you'd be sitting in front of a white backdrop doing this
No,
at that
not necessarily. I'm a recovering lawyer, I say. I practice law in a large law firm.
Still practicing in a little bit.
I try not to.
Yeah.
Depends on the day.
But, me too, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm the daughter of a police officer for 20 years and a assistant principal of an elementary school.
Okay.
So that's my background. And so, my father was in drug enforcement and is actually a very big supporter of mine and believes in what we're doing. And so I approach it maybe a little bit differently. I definitely have social justice and some of those underpinnings in terms of...
And I'm definitely going to get to that,
from
by
a
the way.
philosophical
I'm going to get to that. I have some specific questions on that.
And so really, as we were building the company, it really hit us very hard. When we got into it, after we won the license, we were the highest scoring in Florida, and we sought to move very quickly in terms of expansion, because I am a big believer, and we are a big believer in doing what we said that we were going to do.
And I was going to say, congratulations. I think one of the things, whether it's my Twitter feed, I didn't know a lot about the individualistic story, although we dig in. I mean, Merida, I think we're kind of known for information-heavy, data-heavy, real deep analysis. And when I started to really dig in, I noticed your speed to market was impressive. So in Connecticut, when we won the first license, we had product on the shelves within 7 months. We weren't vertical. So we only had to build the grow. Other people had to build the dispensary, so you could only focus on one element, but even 7 months from retrofit. So that leads to a natural question, which is, for us, it was sort of wilderness.
Yep.
right? There was no guidebook.
Yep.
You were in Florida, which had new rules that you couldn't go to another state and really say, oh, this is how they did it.
That's right.
You could get some expertise from other places. Obviously, you had to because no one was legally doing it in Florida.
Right.
Legally doing it.
Right.
So in that wilderness, there was an advocacy background. There's obviously caring about patient background. You're getting to market, and you now realize first patient walks in your door that first day, and you go, we just helped someone's health. Tell me about that overwhelming feeling of, was it relief?
Let me tell you, actually,
Sure.
in Florida, it's a little bit of an interesting story. In our deck, we have this one picture that is memorializes the first sale in Florida.
Okay.
That patient actually wasn't from Tallahassee. So we opened our first store in Tallahassee, and we were required to do so under our application. Really, part of our mission
is that
was
your core? That's your core zone.
That's right. And so it was to make sure that we are serving rural populations in Florida, and we're definitely different and unique in terms of our posture, and that is part of our core mission as well. And so there were no doctors recommending cannabis in the Panhandle at the time, and so we literally had to reach out to a patient that we knew existed in Pasco County, medically transport him
Pasco,
to
I think, is Tampa.
Medically transport him to Tallahassee so that we can make our first sale. And so we really
medically transport. So you're talking about someone who's very ill.
Absolutely. And so initially in Florida, remember, it was only for terminally ill patients, and then also
low THC,
for cancer
and even today
patients.
you're fighting. John Morgan has, I think it's no smoke is a joke or something of that nature.
# Free the Flower. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I know that vaporization is you're. I know you at some point were advocating for new product forms.
Yes.
Has that been successful? Because I haven't followed the story on a day-to-day basis.
Sure,
and it's moving that quickly.
It is. So in Florida, there's a lot of moving parts, and there are a lot of policy changes that are coming both legislatively and also through the court system.
Right.
And so if you rewind a year or so ago, actually 2 years ago, we were advocating for whole flower and for allowing it, at least for vaporization. So we worked with the Department of Health for about a year.
The entourage effect is very important.
100%.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we worked with the Department of Health for about a year to come up and bring a product to market that conforms with the legislative mandate of being in a tamper-proof container intended for vaporization, with an attempt to...
As an investor in Kushco, we love child-proof packaging.
Yes. But
so I'm a fan.
And part of that, though, is also to normalize and to help destigmatize different products that we bring to market. Kind of rewinding back into those early days, though, what I can tell you is the moment that first sale was made was certainly impactful, but beyond that, I really had the chance to connect directly with the Canna Moms organization.
Right.
And as a mother myself...
Which helped drive the laws. I mean, that's...
Yes.
It's like the airplane is the thing people are scared about dying, and even though that the chance of that happening is zero, you get a mom who's like, my child is sick, has pediatric epilepsy, the drugs make them sluggish, et cetera, or they don't work as effectively.
Right.
You now have, hey, here's 3 drops of something non-toxic, and the results are not instantaneous, but impactful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And really those stories and getting to know those women on a personal basis completely has driven and changed and has influenced directly the True Leaf path. So a couple of direct examples. I got a phone call. We were open for maybe 3 months from one of the Canna Moms, one of the founders, Renee. She said, Kim, I really would like to give your product to my son, Brandon, very complex seizure condition child. However, I need to know what's in it. And I said, absolutely, I completely understand that you need to know what's in it. Let me send you the third-party lab report. It's not a problem. Send it to her in 10 minutes. She called me back. She said, this is fantastic. It's full panel. This is very informative. But if you can give this to me, why can't you give this to everyone? So you know what? You're absolutely right. Within a month, my team had developed an online portal where physicians and patients can go in.
So that's how it shows how states are different. Early on, and maybe the earlier states, obviously Florida was funny. Their process started around the same time, but it took 3 or 4 years. This is the challenge, and for companies like yourself, they've had to grind through years of stop, start, herky-jerky. Keeping a corporate identity in one piece is challenging in those moments because you have to take the shape. So I was going to ask you before, was there ever a moment from early on, because Florida is a place that doesn't have quite the spotlight shine on it, how many patients it does, and that has a spotlight, but the real idiosyncrasies of that market. So was there a moment where you, with some government relations background, an advocacy, I really admire that you still speak about how people should continue to think about the law, the evolution of laws, how it's not done yet.
That's right.
Right? Like we're nowhere yet.
That's right.
It's very early.
That's right.
Especially if you want medical evolution, you need research for that. You need legality.
Yep. 100%.
Period. Full stop.
Yep.
Okay. So was there a moment where you felt like you were watching the bulge of laws and the contours of it and said, I'd love to know like a moment where you go, whew, this is just why? There's no reason behind this. Was there ever like any funny moment where you go, we're not in Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is bizarre. This is taking a crazy shape. So I think people would love to know like a moment where.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, there's been more than one moment.
Right. Think of one.
Particularly in the lawmaking process.
We're going to try to keep this under 6 hours.
Sure. So yeah, if everyone has time. I would say
that 5,000 real closest friends.
Right. So I would say that if you rewind during the implementation of Amendment 2, so I felt like Amendment 2 was fairly clear with respect to, access was mandated, smoking was mentioned, so I thought that was going to be, a relatively easy and straightforward conversation.
Right.
I felt like the legislature then had clear direction from the people. I mean, it passed overwhelmingly.
Right.
One of the highest passing amendments in Florida history, bipartisan support, and so.
Right, I think I remember the one that failed originally had a higher approval rate, 57, than any politician statewide had gotten in.
That's right.
Forever.
That's right. And this,
especially in a polarized.
And then we passed Amendment 2 with over 70% of the.
Right.
Of
well,
the
that was
vote.
The second one.
The second one, right?
You know what they say? Nothing focuses the mind like a gun to the head. I think the advocates really got out after getting 57, and if that's failure on a political level, then what's real success?
That's right. That's right. And so I think that. Then going into that session, having this incredible hope that we were finally going to make some real substantive progress in Florida,
right.
And there was some, to be clear, there was some positive steps forward. But that's also the bill that we had that put the cap on dispensary locations,
right.
That peeled back, that said specifically that no flower was allowed except for in this crazy tamper-proof format. So
someone was just using a tray as a frisbee. I think.
Again, we're a cannabis conference, so
exactly.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
So I remember, and there was actually a special session that was called for implementation because it didn't get done during regular session.
Interesting.
And so called
people
back.
They don't realize, like, you're running a business, and like unlike other businesses,
right.
like the political headwinds, tailwinds, whatever you might call
That's
it,
right.
are always taking different shape. That's why we use the word contours often in Merida. We'll say, what's the contours of that state's laws? Because of our background in the licensing part, we really dig in to understand opportunities and how they're shaped by the local aspects and also more global. And I don't think a lot of people who might buy your stock actually understand that there is a huge political element to what you do on a daily basis, and that you really don't have control over that. That what might separate a great MSO from one that's only going to be mediocre, it might be not just the ability to react to that, but to thoughtfully go through the process and to have multiple layers of reactivity to these moments, whether it's more dispensaries or anything.
Yes, I mean, you can't have just a plan A in cannabis.
Exactly.
You have to have a plan A through F on a minimum, at a minimum, and we talk about that constantly. I mean, right now, you mentioned smoking. As an example, we're ramping up and have been ramping up production. We'll have over 120,000 new cultivation space onboarded in Q1.
Wow.
The reason for that is not from a demand curve standpoint per se, but it's because we foresee.
You think there'll be more flower
injection of flower and edibles, and we have to have that. We have to have that stable of high quality flower, premium flower, which is somewhat different than growing for oil, as we all know. And so, making sure that we're one step ahead, and we're thinking strategically through that. Now, will it happen this week? Will it happen via session? When will it happen? Is an unknown, but we have to be prepared for that. And
and there's challenges. I think one of the things that doesn't often come up, especially like I said in the soundbite economy,
right? Because
people, let's say there's 500,000 people in any day that are going to log on to a site and look at stocks. There's so many sites. Ameritrade might have 50 million people, who knows?
Right.
But for cannabis, there's a smaller ecosystem of investors.
Sure.
So there might only be 20,000 investors. So it's not like the whole world's waking up and looking at the same information, and everyone's using different information sources. One of the reasons why we pursue investments in data, or because we think that those sources will be bigger over time. So I'm curious, number one, because you have patient data, directly usage and all that stuff, you can predict for that.
Yep.
But one thing people may not appreciate, which I'd love to hear your perspective on, is being ready for products and understanding that because of the OTC nature of this medicine, and that rec versus medicine or medical is really a regulatory designation, not a consumer designation.
Correct.
You need to have, people want to have high THC, or people want to have, in the winter they might not mind being couch locked, whereas during the summer they might, and how you guys actually have probably learned a lot about that product segmentation and how to grow for seasons and seasonality, which I don't think a lot of people appreciate. There's 100%. An excellence to it that
100%.
is developed over time.
And we track everything. We're a very data-driven company. I mean, one of my key positions is my chief information officer, so who provides reports and pivot charts are his favorite thing ever.
Gantt charts on your dispensaries.
Yes, and so we look at that, and we have data to show us that this dispensary may actually be more sativa leaning, for example. example, versus this dispensary, which may be more indica leaning. I mean, our Villages location, for example, versus our Fort Lauderdale location. I mean, those are two prime examples.
And delivery?
Delivery.
So delivery, not every state has delivery.
Yep.
And I often said that I was very early on, I don't know if I tweeted this or if I spoke at a conference, I said, I'm kind of bearish on the global Uberization of delivery because I think a lot of the people like yourself want to manage it so that they can sort of own the process, especially in a state like Florida that you've dedicated so much of.
Yeah, and
of
it's an extension of your
will.
It's an extension of your brand.
Right.
I mean, so it is difficult, and we were forced to do it this way in Florida.
Right.
But we have 65 vehicles on the road today.
You mean to
here
own your own
in
fleet?
Florida. So we own our own fleet, and we are required to have our employees.
So when people see by the way, your public line items insurance, it's not because they have a very insurance. They have 65 cars.
We have 65 cars. That's right. And so, and people may not realize that, but of course,
are they allowed to be branded?
Well, it's a safety issue.
In every state, right. I was going to say,
it's a
because...
safety issue. And
right.
so you can. There's not a prohibition against it. I think that the department prefers that they not be.
So there's a lot of Priuses driving around.
Well,
I'm kidding around.
I'm not going to tell you
I'm
make and model,
around.
but
right.
yeah, and so we try to be as fuel efficient as possible,
Of course.
though. And so
65 is a big fleet.
65 is a big fleet,
Yeah.
But what I like about it is the fact that we are able to still have autonomy over that entire branded experience for the patient. And so the folks that are delivering to the patient can still have that personal interaction. They can speak intelligently about our products, what's coming, answer any questions, take a return, which we, of course, as you may know, have the most robust customer service and return policy, I think, in the cannabis industry.
I mean, look, you have a lot of... I will say that one of the early things that I sort of... My observation was that you have a great reputation. I think, and one... I used to push back on people that were talking about... Truly is to market quick, and I often said, well, they're quick. It's a single state entity. It was. I know you're branching out now. But at that time, I said to people, if you're going to evaluate them, you should really understand the macro dynamic of Florida, which is a great opportunity alone.
Sure.
So it wasn't like a... But people often ask, like, how do I evaluate these things? Because I've been doing it for a long time. And I'll say, for a company like Trulieve, you really want to get behind... You want to understand the total market of Florida, the speed of other people. And I don't think people recognize how slow adoption can be quick. Like, it's not easy to open up 7 dispensaries simultaneously. There's a lot of other professional operators in Florida, but because you were only Florida, you, I think in some cases, really handled that baby with kid gloves. You made sure you did it right and fast and accurate. And because you have a background in real estate development and some legal, those help. Like, those help defrictionate the elements. Like, you've been able to remove friction to your adoption. So with that, what is... if you think a core element of your vision, that your philosophy, and obviously the advocacy element is huge. I said, very admirably continue to talk about people, making sure that they're being responsive. I think people sometimes, it's easy to think that cannabis started in like 2016, and there were people that went to jail. And so one thing that we find intriguing, is the feminine entrepreneurship that's been unlocked, which is a key element. It's not that Trulieve is Kim Rivers. You've built a great team, a huge business, great revenue. Obviously, you have a huge presence, but your philosophy it permeates throughout the organization. And the unlocking of the feminine entrepreneurship as legalization came, more mothers, more because I think in California, if you talk to a guy in 1998, he'd say, I can't let my wife be part of the business because if something happens, I don't want my mom. I don't want my kids to have to go to foster care or something. So talk a little bit about how you've unlocked the feminine entrepreneurship side of yours, and how what you're seeing in the space broadly, how there's we ourselves have 2 portfolio companies that are women run, women owned, and also one of my partners, Daisy Malay, was just named to the High Times 100. Which is great.
Good. Maybe I'll see her at the gala.
Yeah, she's a fantastic part of our business and brings a tremendous value to it.
Sure.
So tell me about you, what you're noticing on the feminine entrepreneurship.
Well, I mean, there's still not enough of us.
Sure.
So, at conferences like this, I think it becomes glaringly obvious and apparent that, I think all too often I'm on a stage and I'm the only...
well, you're one of 2 here.
Right.
You're 50%.
Okay.
So we fixed it.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. We're very egalitarian here. We're very egalitarian.
So, I mean, and I think I would also, and I talk a lot about internally with our organization about proactive diversity and inclusion initiatives. And so I probably one of the, and there are all kinds of wonderful recognitions, which we're so appreciative of, but one of the ones that I'm most proud of is we were just named the Minorities for Medical Marijuana, a Diversity and Inclusion Partner of the Year for 2018. And so we're at about 40% when you look at our diversity statistics internally in Trulieve. So I think that is proven data, hard data, that you can be profitable and you can be very successful and you can still have an eye towards
that's what I'm saying. It's a philosophy rather than a hard. Your philosophy is one of inclusion.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And I think that in this industry particularly, and I get a little passionate about this point, but I think it's part of our responsibility as companies who are successful, because as you mentioned, there are so many people who have been fighting this battle for so long,
and deserve
much longer than
incredible credit,
much longer,
stigma
than Kim Rivers has been in this business. And to the extent that we can provide opportunities, that we can partner with those advocates. For example, we're partnered with Bobby Tuna. The Silver Tour that provides education for seniors across the state of Florida on the benefits of medical cannabis. For those of you who may not know, there's been a documentary on him. He served 30 years in prison for cannabis, and so really he, in my perspective, as really paved the way. He lived it. And so to the fact that we can partner with him and then now give him a way to make a living in a legal way, promoting something that he obviously very much believes in and has invested his life in, is something that is a small thing that we can do. And so I think that as a company who is successful in this industry, it is part of our responsibility, and I think that it makes good business sense also. We can partner with advocates. I was talking with someone else, and they asked about philosophies, and you're going to see a lot of brand partnering. We've seen that recently with us. So what we're doing right now is we're thinking about kind of from a hot macro level, what does the Trulieve experience look like, not only in Florida but also across other states. And so we're thinking about, and really I align with the Whole Foods philosophy. So we're going to have our stable of Trulieve brands, so those are going to be consistent. We'll have also our partners. 365. That's our 365. Yeah. We're going to also have our partner brands that are going to be consistent across the country, that are known brands that have track records in multiple states. And then we'll also have local brands. And so you saw we just announced a deal with Sunshine Cannabis. They're a local group that have been heavily involved in activism and are involved in the legalization effort in Florida. And so
the further legalization
the further legalization in Florida, and so we just partnered with them to bring a product to market in our stores and providing that opportunity for them.
By the way, you're doing a great job of concentrating with an crazy amount of noise.
No, that's okay. I actually did a pitch with a fire alarm going on in New York.
Well, in this space,
not a problem.
I didn't ask you what's the funniest thing you ever saw. Because I could ask that to each person, but it'll just get repetitive. Because remember, while you get to leave, I have to do 5 of these. And watching a video of myself doing the same questions over and over. I think I get bored, and I think people would say, "Well, I already know the 3 questions. I can ask the people directly, so no one has to watch it." So I'm going to leave with one. I want to ask one question that's more of a macro. And I want you to think just whatever comes to your mind in terms of December 31st, 2020, what is the largest market cap? And I know, I don't care which company it is, because I don't want to put you on the spot. Obviously, you would say Trulieve, but what is the largest market cap in US dollars of the largest US company? What is the largest US company market cap? Number one. And what is their revenue? So we're talking roughly 2 years out. Into 2020. What is the market cap? What's their revenue? And what is the one killer app that you're really excited about, that you've seen or people have asked for, that you think is feasible, possible, and coming, that you're excited, whether it's from adult use or a medical side, that that's being unlocked before the research gets done and all that stuff? Because I know there's going to be exciting stuff 5 years from now, 3 years from now.
And the one killer, what did you say? App?
Killer app. Like a delivery. It could be
so any
a
sort
micro dose.
Sure.
I don't want to put word. You see, I told you to think outside, and then you tricked me into giving you.
So I want to know.
I don't want to guide the reader.
I'm kind of curious. So I'm much, and this is kind of maybe an interesting thing for me. And I look at other companies. I look at the growth trajectory. I mean, we all know the macro, high level, big numbers that are thrown out with respect to.
Well, that's why I'm asking your opinion on those things. How you contextualize it in your mind.
And so what I can say is, I think that obviously I don't think that we'll be at full maturation in 2020.
But we're not talking about Trulieve. I'm saying in general, what would be the largest?
Understood.
Market?
I think as a market, right? I mean, so I think that a lot of that is going to depend on a lot of variables, right? Whether or not the Canadians can figure out a way.
You're qualifying.
I am.
But it's
absolutely.
So
you want a number?
I just want what you think the biggest market cap might be for a company. Everyone else answered it.
Okay, great. So, I mean, fantastic. Everyone else, so you guys have already heard the numbers, so you can go ahead and rewind.
But we want to compare what everyone thinks.
100%.
It's great.
So I would say that, I mean, depending on, and these are my qualifiers for people to think about my process.
I know you're thoughtful. Look, everyone's going to know that you're thoughtful about it and that you're just throwing it out as a reactive answer.
Kevin says 10.
Okay, by the way, so Kevin's not on stage, but what I would say is, by the way, that's a round we've heard from other people as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be maybe, again, depending on whether or not
Hadley Ford so far is the crazy outlier.
Yeah.
Not that he's crazy, just the outlier.
The outlier,
much higher than everyone else.
Yeah, depending on whether or not we see entry into from other players.
Wow. So now I just mean, the reason I want is I think it's important for people who are living it every day, who have a context of the public markets, to give people
5 would be very reasonable.
Because right now there's no U.S. MSO probably over 3-ish.
3-ish, right? Yeah. I mean, so I would say 5.
Because it depends on the day. It's ish.
It depends on the day.
There's a lot of
it's always ish. That's like my favorite word, actually.
Yeah.
Truly, ish.
Insert ish.
Right.
It's like a Mad Lib.
Right, exactly.
You're saying your COO comes in. What's the issues of today?
Yeah, right. We have a lot of those on a regular basis. I would say,
and we're in your home base, by the way.
Yes,
so thank you for welcoming us to Florida.
You're welcome. But I would say 5 is very reasonable.
Yes.
So I think somewhere between
that could be
5
next week.
Exactly. It could be or not. But I think 5 to 10. So
that's
7, I'll say.
And what do you think? Again, what's something you're excited as someone who I've just done research on you. And this is a fantastic chance to meet and connect with you. But what's something that you're really excited about that you're either in development, not necessarily you, but something you've seen where you're like, hey, dog ear the page.
Yeah.
Let me return to that. That's something I'm really interested in developing.
Yep, so we're actually in development, and I know that this isn't necessarily new technology, but I don't know that it's been...
By the way, cannabis isn't necessarily new technology
Exactly.
either. It's kind of been around since
encapsulation and nanotechnology is, I think...
solubility, that's what
100%. Well, not only solubility, but I think that it's the different forms that it can take in different product lines, and the fact that it solves a number of problems.
Are you talking about dosage, though? When you say different forms, you mean...
No, I'm talking about actual...
Encapsulation.
And how that's utilized in products, and the factor of bioavailability increase, and also, I mean, obviously in Florida we've got a number of patients, and just in medical in general, that aren't necessarily comfortable with vaporization. Right. They want to ingest, but then you have the whole problem with respect to onset and how quickly does it absorb, and I really think that
is one of the core.
Absolutely. So I think encapsulation absolutely turns that on its head, and I think that more research needs to be done on it.
Well, that's where legalization comes in.
Time release, all of that stuff. We're trying to actually work with the state of Florida right now as to how we can do just simple blood test on for dosing purposes in terms of if we want to release a time release product, how do we do that?
It goes down a spiral. It never ends.
Right. That's
and
right.
I'm sure that every day you must be. I hope. I know I'm thankful to. You see the impact that our investments are in mostly ancillary companies. We do own some other direct plant touching, and going back to Connecticut, the roots of a lot of the earlier people is medical, and the chance to help people is something that people should understand is so core to your vision. I know from watching. I mean, I just could get the sense that it's, and so just to leave it on that note. One last thing: is there anything you'd want to? From a vision, philosophy, what are you thankful for on a daily basis?
Oh, I am overwhelmed by gratitude regularly.
By the way, we like deconstructing people's. Now we're really beyond the sound.
Yeah, no, I can tell you. I mean, so every grand opening, when I try to attend, and then I try to work the counter for a number.
I saw that on one of your things,
of for at least an hour to 2 hours and connect with patients.
Reminds you
so it honestly just to hear the stories and to get a sense, not only from a company standpoint, what we're doing right, what we maybe could improve on, but also to hear those stories and get that. It really re-energizes me, and I'm able to take that. All of the hugs and the tears and the thank yous and
that's your collection for going through a 5-year rigormal of being licensed.
Absolutely. And those are the things I have. Love and light is one of our sayings, and that comes from patients. Just I think there's a couple of personal connections that I've made over the years that you can draw.
You probably have another saying like Winston Churchill once said, which is success is being able to, I guess, energetically deal with your failures.
Absolutely.
In this space, it's all relative. But you have been someone who hasn't failed very much. Apparently, from the outside in, it looks like you guys have done an incredible job to market for the patients of Florida. And I honestly, from the outside, admire what you guys have achieved.
Oh, thank you.
And I thank you so much for spending the time for us.
Thank
it's
you so
really
much.
very gracious to
you. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, too.
All right, thanks so much.
All right.